In 1976, the Eagles pressed play on a simple cassette. On it was a melody unlike anything they had ever played. It was hypnotic, somewhat eerie, and simply unforgettable. A song that sounded nothing like their past. A song that would become their masterpiece and their curse. This is the story of how one track, born from a single demo, turned dreamers into rock royalty and destroyed the innocence that made them great.
You just felt beat or nailed it?
Yeah, just sometime before we start.
Just a few years earlier, they weren't icons. They were dreamers with guitars, chasing a sound as wide and warm as the California sky. Don Henley, Glenn Frey, Bernie Leadon, and Randy Meisner. 4 voices blending so seamlessly into one. Los Angeles was their promised land. Glenn Frey even called it the place where the light always feels golden.
Bernie Leadon was the guy who came in, who was the multi-instrumentalist. He was just a really talented guy.
And their music carried that glow. Songs like Take It Easy and Peaceful Easy Feeling made them the soundtrack of a simpler, more innocent California. But that innocence wouldn't last.
As our friend J.D. Souther used to say, time passes, things change.
The dream they embodied, California's bright allure, was slowly pulling them towards something darker. Behind all that sunshine, ambition was growing and tension was brewing. When a single demo tape arrived, everything changed forever. Radio stations all across America felt a shift, sensing these newcomers carried the potential to redefine the nation's musical landscape entirely.
People are always saying things to me like, "You're just like a normal person." And I always say, "Of course."
In 1976, Don Felder walked into the Eagles studio and handed the band a simple cassette. On it was a progression unlike anything they had played before. An eerie, hypnotic, almost cinematic touch. The iconic descending guitar riff instantly caught their attention. It sounded dark, mysterious, a door opening into absolutely uncharted territory. Don Henley and Glenn Frey immediately sensed its potential. They pushed the band to transform it into more than a song. It needed to be a statement. Henley later described their vision, an interpretation of the dark underbelly of the American dream. Where earlier Eagles tracks painted wide-open skies, this one would sketch a shadowy hotel with no escape.
We call Western culture, and in this age of media, friends, fame is just not what it used to be.
The lyrics sparked fierce debates. Images of mirrors, pink champagne, and that chilling line, "You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave," were carefully chosen and then sharpened. You could see them argue over it late into the night. Recording sessions stretched endlessly. Perfectionism ruled, every note scrutinized, every harmony tested.
In the 70s, we formed a corporation called Eagles Limited, and that was all for one and one for all.
The process was grueling, but the result was undeniable. What emerged from those sessions was not just another Eagles track. It was a shift in identity. The innocence of country rock giving way to sophistication, ambition, and a haunting masterpiece that would change their legacy forever. When the song finally reached the world, it exploded like wildfire overnight. And critics quickly hailed it as prophetic, a mirror of America's restless spirit forever binding the Eagles to cultural mythology and mystery. If stories like this resonate with you, subscribe now so you won't miss the next untold chapter of music history.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
Early 1977, Hotel California hit the airwaves. The moment that descending guitar riff started, listeners froze. Radios paused, record stores buzzed, and arenas hummed. Within weeks, the song climbed the charts. By spring, it had reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100.
So there was a little disagreement early on about how much we should work and how hard we should work.
The Eagles were no longer just California dreamers, they were rock royalty. At the Grammys, the song earned Record of the Year. Millions of albums sold worldwide. The band's music, once innocent and sun-soaked, had become sophisticated, ambitious, unstoppable. But with triumph came cost. Don Henley later admitted it was exhilarating and crushing. Once you reach the top, there's nowhere to go but down.
Thank you, and good evening. We're the Eagles from Los Angeles.
The victory was undeniable, but sadly, the cost was already beginning to show in the shadows. The triumph of Hotel California was priced punishingly. Night after night, hotel rooms blurred into arenas, arenas into hotel rooms.
Glenn and I saw ourselves as the leaders of the band, but other people saw us as dictators.
Okay, let's have a warm round of applause on a hot afternoon for the Eagles.
The applause was deafening, but behind closed doors, the silence between bandmates was louder. And that left the band fraying at the edges. The road offered no escape now. It caused more pressure, more expectations, and more distance between the men who had once been brothers in harmony.
So after about the third or fourth time that Randy refused, Glenn just backed up a couple of steps.
And then substance abuse crept in. Fueled by fame and exhaustion, their egos swelled. Creative clashes were now normal. Henley versus Felder, Frey versus Henley. Recording sessions turned into battlefields. The effortless chemistry that once defined them had simply vanished.
Got firecrackers. Save them till you get home, lock yourself in the closet, and light every...
Hours in the studio were spent in near silence, with members barely speaking except to argue over arrangements. The innocence of their country rock beginnings was long gone. Henley would later admit, "We created our own prison."
Of course, ironically enough, with that band, and my wife was pregnant with our first kid, and
So you were a married man with a pregnant wife, and things were about to really change in your life. You're about to be a member of the Eagles.
And the irony? Their greatest triumph, the song that would define them forever, was the very thing that began to break them apart. And music historians even note that while Hotel California cemented their fame, it also became a cautionary tale of artistic ambition and the hidden toll of rock stardom's relentless grind. Fans and critics alike still debate whether the reunion healed old wounds or simply showcased a band forever shaped by its own legendary, tumultuous journey through fame and artistry.
About the band's future, Leadon walked over.
Bernie comes over and pours a beer on my head and says, "You need to chill out, man."
By 1980, the fractures were too deep to ignore. A benefit concert in Long Beach almost erupted into violence on stage. Fans could feel it. The music barely masked the hostility.
Stay out of this. This is personal, and it's private.
Shortly after, the Eagles broke apart. Hotel California had cemented their place in rock history, but at the cost of friendships, trust, and innocence. Henley reflected, "We never set out to be superstars. The song defined us, but it also confined us." For over a decade, the Eagles were a memory. Then, in 1994, the Hell Freezes Over reunion tour reminded the world of their brilliance. Multi-platinum sales, stadiums filled once again. Yet the scars remained. Proof that not all victories come without sacrifice. Do you think Hotel California was the Eagles' greatest triumph or their curse? Let us know and join us for the next untold story in music history.